We've had both leaders staying mostly metropolitan, focusing on Sydney, Melbourne, northern Tasmania. What about the regional campaign? What's happening there up until May 21? The Nationals have been out there, blitzing seats in regional Victoria, central Queensland and the Northern Territory as well. Our reporter Andrea Crothers was on the Wombat Trail, as it's known, and sat down with the Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce.
Barnaby Joyce, thanks for your time today.
You're welcome.
The last time you were asking Australians to return you as Deputy Prime Minister was under Malcolm Turnbull. How's the campaign different this time around?
I think the biggest issue is the progression of China. Unfortunately, from a great trading opportunity to still a great trading opportunity, but now obviously there's a threat. There's a real and imminent threat in the way we are seeing things in the Solomon Islands. It really does affect me. It really does focus me. It has for now a long time, and therefore the difference here is making sure you get the investment in the infrastructure so that you have the capacity to extract more wealth, grow more wealth, develop more wealth, manufacture more wealth, because we need it. And if we don't have that money, it's no good talking about, submarines and stuff like that if you can't pay for them. And therefore, that's making the economy bigger, and that's how we make ourselves stronger.
If you win government, will it make rolling Michael McCormack worth it?
Well, that's always the decision by the room. One person can't roll anybody. It's a decision by party room.
But he was obviously viewed as not the guy to do the job.
Well, I think Michael did, he's been noted by some of the work that's been done on the Pacific Highway, Bruce Highway. There are so many things that people...
So if you win, though, was it worth it for the party?
I don't want to sort of go into a... the problem is in politics is this. Everyone talks about these sort of puerile personality things which work so well in the boarding school called Canberra, when really what matters is people listen to that and they go, why are you talking about my hospital? Why aren't you building a road? Why aren't you talking about defending our nation? Who's who in the wooden canoe? No one's got a clue and no one cares.
So what about then if you lose?
Well, you don't plan to lose. You don't go into a race or a football game and say, what happens...
Will you stand down, though?
What happens if you lose the grand final? And that's the hypothetical. Once more, people saying, mate, you should be talking about getting more coal out of Newcastle, more iron ore out of the Pilbara, more sugar out of central Queensland, more cattle out of Karratha. You should be talking about how you're going to manufacture critical minerals into componentry parts. You should be talking about how you're going to seal roads across the desert. Because, whether it's you or Mother Teresa, as long as they're doing the job and getting things done, that's what we focus on.
You said this isn't a popularity contest, but ultimately Labor is targeting Scott Morrison's character. You've previously called him in text messages a liar and a hypocrite. What was the moment that your opinion of him changed?
Well, once more, we're going back to issues that people say, does that help me get obstetrics? Talking about that in my hospital.
But you know as well as anyone, the way someone views you does affect.
Well, let's look at it. What I have said and what the Prime Minister said has been the same line actually, because it's a good line. I don't care. I don't care. It's like a dentist. I don't care whether I like you or not. It's irrelevant. All I want to know is if you got that drill in my mouth, that it's not going to go through my tongue or through my cheek. I just want to know you can do the job. I don't really care about your personal life. I just want to know you're competent. And that's what the Australian people are going to focus on. And unfortunately in this first week, and I don't think it's going to change elections, but the Labor Party, you have to be honest, have shown they're pretty damn incompetent, and incompetent on some pretty basic issues. Now, I don't think a person not knowing his facts is going to change the election, but it starts putting a question mark in people's minds, saying, well, hang on, you told us that you're going to be just like the other crap, but you're not. It looks like you've got a lot more homework to do, old trout.
But just back to it, if you want Australian voters to believe that Scott Morrison isn't all these things that people have branded him, some of which have come from your own text messages, at what moment did your opinion change?
Well, that first thing, that text message, I really get annoyed. People are using basically something that was a private text message to another person who then accidentally gave it to a third person, who a third person decided for their own political point scoring mechanism that they were going to make it a public...
But your opinion did change of him.
Of course it does, because when you are working one-on-one with a person, it's a lot different to working at...
So it was when you returned to the leadership?
When you're working one-on-one with a person, you understand, you get to see them work up close, and every agreement I've had with Scott Morrison, he has honoured. Every one. And I've never had to go and counter-litigate it and think, oh, he's slipping out. He's not. He's tough. He is very tough, but he's straight. And he's straight, and I like that. Now, as once more, in the relationship, you work together for the betterment of Australia. This is not a popularity contest. It's not about, your best buddies and you're going to hang around all day. But your job is to the Australian people. It's to the Australian nation.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of those agreements. Mm-hmm. We've currently got war in Ukraine.
Yep.
There's rising cost of living.
Yeah.
The threat of China is getting more intensified with the Solomons. They're looming. Do you think if the net zero debate was occurring now, there would be a different outcome?
I just think that the net zero debate isn't the biggest issue before us is defence of our nation. It is.
But if the net zero debate was occurring now, you emphasise the strength of the nation, you talk about extracting the wealth out of these regions. Do you think if the debate was occurring now, given what the public knows about our times?
I think the Australian people, I think it's an issue. Like, I'm not saying it's not an issue. I think it's an issue. But the biggest issue now is...
Do you think it was always going to occur even if we were in this...
Defend the nation. As soon as you start hearing about superpower that has basically taken over the South China Sea, incarcerated, we believe, over 1 million Uyghur people, where it has all the journalists in Hong Kong just swept off the street, a lot of them in jail. I don't know whether, what's happened to them. Tennis stars are just, disappear, incursions into Indian territory. Once these things start happening, Australian people aren't stupid, especially in the north of Australia. They go, okay, focus. There you go. Number one issue. Bang, right there, laser-like.
You were against slashing the fuel excise. Will you rule out extending that beyond September?
Well, I don't have to rule in or rule out anything. It's done by a cabinet. We have a cabinet process, and cabinet.
Do you believe it should stop once end the slash to it?
I think everything you've got to balance up with cost of living, which is incredibly important, and making sure that we have.
So the door's open though.
We've got to make sure so you got the cash to pay for things, and you've got to understand the cost of living pressures. But
so Labor says the cut to the fuel excise will come to an end after the 6 months. Is the door open to extend it?
I'll leave that for Josh Frydenberg, and I'll have my say in the Expenditure Review Committee. But
and your say would be?
Well, it's not much point having my say inside the Expenditure Review Committee if I'm going to have it on national television.
Why not?
Because it's naughty.
Okay, a couple quick ones. So just as much as you are a powerhouse in these areas as a campaigner, we know that you aren't all that popular when it comes to those moderate seats.
Yeah.
Just as much as you say you vote for the Labor, you get the Greens. In those seats, independents are saying you vote for the Liberals, you get Barnaby Joyce. What do you say to that? I'm
famous? No. Well, you do. If you vote for the Labor Party, you do get.
But you are a liability.
If you vote for the Labor Party, you do get the Greens. There's very rarely.
But what about in those moderate seats?
Very rarely. I think that sometimes you hear that rhetoric, and then you actually go to areas, and of course you're going to meet people who don't like you, but you meet a lot of people who like you as well. And I hope that people understand about me that the reason they have an opinion about me is because I try to be straight with them. I don't try to be everything for everybody. I don't change who I am depending the suburb that I'm in or the town that I'm in. So the person who I am in Singleton is the same person who I'm in Sydney. And the person who I am at Mackay is the same person I am in Melbourne. Now, there are and some other senior politicians like Mr Albanese, in the end you'll just lose both of them because they'll both say, well, you're not authentic, mate. I don't believe you. I don't know who I'm talking to. But people have an opinion about me because I say, I know who this person is. This is what I think anyhow. I know who this person is. I like him or I dislike him, but I certainly know what he's about. Therefore, I have an opinion, and it's an authentic opinion about him.
May 21.
Yep.
What's the outcome?
It's going to be really close. It's going to be really, really close. I think the Labor Party's had a bad start to the campaign. I think people, what that has done hasn't made or lost the election, but what it has done is make people focus and go, hang on, I thought, there is really a choice here. Let's have a bit of a closer look at this. So Australian people will say, look, you've got to make a decision. And it looks like, to be quite frank, it looks like the Nationals and the Liberals are more competent. I don't know whether I like them or not, but they're definitely more competent at their job. This is about running the country in times that we haven't had before, and I'm going to go with competency.
Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.